From Mark's Gospel, hear these words. Then they came to Jerusalem, and Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out those who were selling and those who were buying in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he would not allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. He was teaching them, saying, "Is it not written, 'My house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations'? But you have made it a den of robbers." And when the chief priests and the scribes heard it, they kept looking for a way to kill him, for they were afraid of him, because the whole crowd was spellbound by his teaching. And when evening came, Jesus and his disciples went out of the city. May God's blessing be added to the reading and the understanding of the word. Jesus does the most provocative thing here. This is tough. This is provocative. He goes into the temple and he throws out these people. He messes with their money. You can't do that. You know? The way it worked in those days to be in the temple, if you wanted to give money to the temple, you couldn't use Roman money. They were in a Roman province, and so Roman money circulated. You couldn't give Roman money to the temple because that was unclean, right? You had to give nice, shiny temple money. And so to buy temple money cost you 75% less or 75% more. So it was this money exchange thing. Like if you ever gone to Canada and you get, 75 cents for a Canadian dollar. Well, and then the money changers kicked back to the temple a percentage of their income. And then if you wanted to buy an animal for sacrifice, and really that was your only option because you had to have the approved animal, the little temple stamp on them. Well, those animals, the price was marked way up. And you were using the temple money to buy them. It was a scam. It was a scam. It was crazy. They made a tidy profit, though. To be a priest in the temple was good money. They were the power in that country. There was no political system in the province at that time because the Romans ran things politically. So this was the community leaders, and they made good money. But it was a barrier. It was a barrier to righteousness. You think, these people, this was the only way they understood coming into righteousness with God was to make the sacrifice that the law prescribed. And you had to do that to be in righteousness. And they just added 75% onto the cost of it for their own benefit. It was a barrier to righteousness. And a lot of people, living hand to mouth, looked around and said, why bother? Why even bother? They knew they were getting ripped off. And Jesus comes into the temple and he calls them on it. He knocks over the tables. He chases them out. He calls them on it. He says, you're stealing. You're creating a stumbling block, a barrier to these people. And that's a very dangerous thing to do, to mess with people's money. That's a very dangerous thing to do. On the journey to the cross, we find a lot of barriers. We find a lot of burdens on the journey to the cross. Things that slow us down, things that get in our way. And we have to decide at some point, how are we going to make this journey? Because some things will stop us cold and we'll say, why bother? I can't go on. When I was in high school, I was part of a backpacking club. And these are actually my boots from high school. I had a very wise backpacking counselor and scoutmaster who said, if you're going to spend money on equipment, spend it on boots. These were the most expensive thing I owned for a long time. And here they are, many years later. They still have a lot of their tread because in Buffalo you mostly walk on snow. But I wore these all the time, hundreds of miles on these things. When we go backpacking, it became a competition to see who could have the lightest pack, who could take the least amount of stuff. And we would go 50, 75-mile, couple-day trips, think nothing of it. It was a competition. Who could have the lightest tent, the lightest bag, the lightest amount of food? And we'd come back emaciated because we didn't eat anything. But we were young and foolish. It was the lighter-than-thou group. Then I first moved to college, moved into a house with some other guys, and it was astonishing that we could move into a house that everything I owned went inside a little car, you know, everything I owned. And then about 5 years ago, Sue and I moved from a house in Arvada to a house in Lakewood. It took weeks, pickup truck loads of stuff, you know, and I kept thinking I could throw it all out. But I can't. And you wonder, how does that happen? That in 25 years of marriage, we went from a car to a house. I can't imagine some of you have been living in your houses for 30 years. When my mother passed away, she'd been living in her house for 40 years. And she always said, I know you boys. She said, just like that with a finger wag. You're going to get a roll-off dumpster and throw everything out. And she was right. We did. It was, I mean, she kept her house really neat and clean, but then she had rooms where she stored stuff. Once one of us moved out, there was no going back, because that became craft room number 3, you know. How is it that we accumulate so much stuff? In your life, is money, is stuff a barrier on your journey to the cross? You know, we have this love-hate relationship with money, don't we? We would like to be able to do with less. We want it. We flaunt it, don't we? But don't ask anyone what their income is. Don't you dare ask anyone what they pledge to the church. It's okay to flaunt it in your car, but not in your giving. I think, you know, on the side of your license plate should say what your pledge is. On Ash Wednesday, if you were here for the Ash Wednesday service, we watched a video on the definition of a trader. And this video I want to watch with us is another in the series, kind of expands on that concept.
For the Pilgrims, it was freedom of worship. For the Founding Fathers, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. For the huddled masses, it was opportunity, equality, freedom. Today, it's more. Much more. Today, the American dream means more money, more house, more car, more power, more fame, more stuff. Instant, on-demand, drive-through, microwavable, downloadable, 1,000 channels, 10,000 songs, happiness in the aisles of a megastore, fulfillment in 4 easy payments, purpose in a bank account, a barcode, a magnetic strip, more me, supersized, satisfied, and served. Self-centered, self-focused, that's the new American dream. So what is a trader? Traders have seen the puppet strings. They've glimpsed the chronic disappointment behind the glittering curtain of greed and consumerism. Traders sense that the road to success may not end as advertised. Traders see through the empty promises and greedy deception of the marketing machine. Traders know that as they lay dying, they won't be wishing for shinier toys, more square footage, a better title on their business card. Traders don't need more stuff to make them happy. They are owned by material things. Traders understand that there is a bigger world. They've seen the face of need, of want, of disease, of hopelessness. They can't turn away anymore. They can't hide in front of the TV. They can't work, play, or party harder to block it out. They can't ignore it anymore. Traders want to make a difference. Traders have to make a difference. Traders have resources, time, money, ideas, skills, creativity, passion. Traders realize that God gave them these resources for a reason, to pick up their cross and follow Christ, to be the Good Samaritan, to obey the Great Commission. A trader looks for a place to help, maybe next door, maybe across town, maybe on the other side of the world. A trader trades in one night a week to help the homeless. A trader trades in summer vacation to train graphic designers in Central Asia. A trader trades in the pursuit of the American dream for a world that desperately needs Christ. Are you a trader?
Trade in the pursuit of the American dream. Is it even possible? Does money have such a hold on us? I was thinking about it as I was watching this. A credit card here, $30,000 of credit on that one, $25,000 on that one. I could buy houses for people all around the world with credit cards. And that's a gift card. You can't buy anything with that. And then there's my bank card. You know, how much is in the bank? What are you going to trade it in for? The journey to the cross is full of barriers and burdens, things that weigh us down, things as light as credit cards that weigh us down. The journey to the cross is a struggle for us, not because we can't make the journey, but because as a Christian community, we have bought into the hypocrisy of being righteous means being rich. And it isn't necessarily so. And the Christian community has to set its priorities straight about money, about stuff. What do you change for that? What would you trade for that? What would you trade your wealth for? Happiness? There's a young man in this world now, first billion-dollar athlete in golf, Tiger Woods. Such amazing talent. I bet he would trade $1 billion to have some sense of happiness again. I'd trade $1 million to have his golf swing. What would you buy? How can he get his reputation back, his good name back? There's no amount of money that goes with it. What would you pay for righteousness? To stand before God, blameless. What would you pay for that? How many dollars? Church dollars, temple dollars. How much? Our frustration with money is so palpable in the church. In our own homes, in the church, we want this stuff. We're called to this stuff. The television tells us we need this stuff. Our little children ask us for brand name stuff. And we need it. We have to pay the bills here. I have to come to you and say, we need money to pay the bills, to fix the roof. We have to raise it, and we have to spend it. And it's frustrating because it's always there. It's a part of our society. And how do we come up with a real-world theology of money? We can't live like hermits. You can't all go and live in caves in the desert. It doesn't work. Real world. What is it? How is money no longer a barrier in our lives and yet still a part of our lives? Money isn't evil. You can be rich and be Christian. There's lots of people who prove it. Money is a tool, like a hammer or a cell phone, that helps us communicate and build and connect and change things. What you do with it on this journey to the cross forces us to reassess the role that money plays in our lives, the priority we place on the accumulation of stuff. And so Jesus goes into the temple and he calls them on it. He calls them. He says, your money has got in the way. Your priorities about money have got in the way of people coming to God. And what's their response in the temple? When they heard it, they kept looking for a way to kill him. A very dangerous act. The journey to the cross isn't light skipping happily through meadows. It's dangerous because that journey takes us to the cross and the nails and the suffering that buys your righteousness.